All right, this is Ubaid on behalf of Electronics, and in this video, we're going to talk about CDIC and Savings and Loan Association. All right, so that's CDIC and Savings and Loan Associations. Savings and Loan Association. Now, when it comes to CDIC, CDIC has to do with Canadian Depositors Insurance Corporation. And this is a corporation, okay, made up of regulators. All right, so you've got regulators when it comes to CDIC. And these regulators not only regulate banks, but they also insure banks, okay, as they're made up of different banks, okay, credit unions, federal credit unions, okay, so on and so forth. So they regulate and insure banks. And we talk about insurance, we're talking about depositors insurance. So they insure banks. All right, now, since some of the banks were insured with depositors insurance, okay, after the Great Depression of 1929, okay, what ended up happening was, okay, the Savings and Loan Association, which is mainly made up of borrowers and depositors, okay, these guys, okay, they started pulling banks out of bankruptcy. Okay, so they started helping the banks because obviously they wanted to make sure, okay, that these banks were out of bankruptcy and the depositors insurance that these banks had was taken care of. Okay, so the Savings and Loan Association, Loan Association. Okay, these guys, they started pulling banks out of bankruptcy. Pulling banks out of bankruptcy. All right. And the sources of these funds, okay, these were, okay, savings accounts, okay, and their uses were mortgages. Okay, so obviously when a customer deposits money in the bank, okay, this is the money that the banks use, okay, to lend out mortgages and loans. Okay, and this is exactly what these savings and loan associations did. All right, so these guys, they started investing in risky loans. Okay, so they ended up paying a high premium, okay, for the depositors. So basically, they ended up giving out more in interest to depositors, and they ended up paying these premiums to invest in risky loans. Okay, risky loans which may or may not get paid back depending on who they're lending money to. Okay, so this is ended up investing in risky loans. And the reason why these loans might be risky is because, okay, of the possibility that the applicants weren't screened. Okay, the people they were lending money to, the individuals or institutions that they were lending money to were possibly weren't screened. Okay, not to mention, okay, the term period might have been less than the regular term period for, let's say, a mortgage. Okay, and on top of that, okay, obviously for them to lend money out, okay, for them to invest in high risky loans, okay, they would have invested in high risky loans because of a higher payout. Okay, so these loans, for example, may have had a high interest rate, as a result of which these savings and loan associations, okay, they were interested in using these interest rates, okay, to pull the banks out of bankruptcy. All right, so they ended up investing in risky loans. It's sort of like investing in stock market. Okay, you can invest in a risky stock, okay, with a high risk profile, or you can invest in a savings bond, okay, or a government bond, which is less riskier. Okay, so in this case, okay, the return is higher, okay, when it comes to your high risky stocks, just like the return is higher in risky loans. Okay, however, okay, because they're risky, okay, they may or may not pay off. Okay, so this is investing in risky loans. And when they ended up investing in risky loans, what ended up happening was, okay, they were not successful in getting the money back from these borrowers. Okay, a lot of the times, as a result of which they couldn't pay their depositors on demand. Okay, which meant that instead of pulling the banks out of bankruptcy, they made the situation worse. Okay, which basically escalated to a point where the taxpayers within the country ended up paying for all these risky loans. Okay, so eventually this escalated and taxpayers ended up paying. All right, so that would be it for this video. On behalf of V Electronics, this is Obey. Have yourself a great day.